Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around and talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes, and we have a little more stuff to go over about the game against Tampa Bay and some more personnel stuff going forward. So stick around into the end of the video to hear all about that. Starting off, though, we are talking about Aleem McNeil's comeback and what kind of impact did he really have in this game against Tampa Bay. His first game back, not necessarily his debut, but his season debut. And what did he do? What did him being there really do for the rest of our defense? Well, according to Coach Dan Campbell, the plan was originally to work McNeil back into the game slowly, give him between 20 to 25 snaps in his first game since last December. In the locker room after the game, though, McNeil estimated that he'd probably played double that, and sure enough, he did. He led the interior defense with 44 snaps. That's 64% of the team snaps for the game. So clearly doing more than he was expected to do, but that's the kind of mentality we have with our guys on this team is you go in and you do 110%. It's really good to see that. His impact was immediate. I mean, he drove the Bucs offensive lineman off the ball multiple times, collapsed on the pocket on a regular basis. It was a really terrific showing from a guy who I expected to maybe get a few pressures, maybe just be a distraction. And the best part is he wasn't even in football shape, right? He was coming out here just kind of like fresh, just trying to go in and get his reps in. But his presence was insane. Dan Campbell even said, quote, his presence was big early, and he's not even in great football shape yet. He was ready to play in this game for all the snaps he did, but you could just feel what he looked like in practice is what he looked like here. His ability to get an edge, push the pocket. I just thought he was a force in there. It was great to have him back. End quote. And like on the edge, the Lions usually favorite the finesse, the skill moves rather than just pure pushing power, right? And so if a lot of people thought, oh, McNeil was going to bull rush all game, that was not going to be the case, but he did a really good job at using that finesse, that athleticism that he has at his size, and you definitely showed. He also had a deflected pass on a crucial 3rd and long to force a punt. His presence was felt on that defensive line. Because Aleem was there, maybe he didn't have an insane stat line, but the O-line had more to worry about than just Hutch and Al-Qadim Muhammad. He allowed a forced fumble to happen on Mayfield, and it felt like just a more completed rush game, in my opinion. We just felt better in a way, right? I wasn't seeing Hutch get double teamed on every single play, just frustrated. Like, why do we have Hutch if he can't do anything because we don't have anyone to help him, right? This was a guy that we kind of needed back to help on that interior, and it's definitely going to free up Hutch for the rest of the season. Let me know what you guys thought about his performance. I was honestly happy. I think that first big sack we're going to get from him, it's going to get really loud in Ford Field, or if it's a away game, I'm going to get really loud on my couch. But you guys let me know what you thought. That's going to take us into our second topic, just talking about the NFC North, what it's looking like. We've had some time now to kind of see each team and where they really are now into the season. So what does it say for each team? Well, let's start with Green Bay. Kind of the weirdest team so far. They have a tie, so they're 4-1-1. Coming off of a win versus Arizona, they are ranked 14th offensively and ranked 6th defensively. And their big guys so far, surprise, surprise, has been edge rusher Micah Parsons. He recorded 5 tackles and 3 sacks in the game against Arizona, and Parsons recorded his 16th career game with just at least 2 sacks, tied with TJ Watt for the 5th most such games by a player in his first 5 seasons since 1982. What a stat. Parsons has 5.5 sacks and 13 quarterback hits on the season so far. Definitely a good trade if you're a Packers fan. He has been really, really good. There's been no regression, no sadness. I'm going to Green Bay. He's been productive. Now, are they an elite level team? Well, the tie would say, I don't know, but I think they are definitely a performing team. Now, is Jordan Love cracked? Is he insane? No, I'm not on the Jordan Love train, but Josh Jacobs has been nuts. Their defense has been really good. Despite what I thought about their secondary, they've still been able to play good defense. I think we're just going to have to wait and see until they play some more high caliber teams to see where they really do stand so far. That's going to take us to Chicago. 4-2, coming off of a win versus New Orleans, ranked 12th offensively, but 25th defensively. And let's be honest, their schedule has not been hard so far, so that really does scare me defensively. They lost to the Vikings, got destroyed by us, beat the Cowboys without CeeDee Lamb, just barely beat the Raiders and the Commanders. It was a 1-point game, and beat the Saints, who are debatably one of the worst teams in football right now, just because they're dealing with so many personnel issues. They need some more guys on offense. It's definitely going to be a rebuild year for the Saints next season. I Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Bears have done anything crazy. They've been better than last year for sure, but they haven't done anything crazy. A large reason for their success is second-year wide receiver Rome Odunze, who was really quiet last year, but has quickly become the number one wide receiver for this team and for Caleb Williams. Odunze leads the Bears in targets at 46, receptions at 24, and receiving yards at 359, and receiving touchdowns with 5. So he's doing really good for them. No other Bears pass catcher has more than just one receiving touchdown this season. Ben Johnson, another main reason why Caleb Williams has specifically been doing better. Not crazy better, but he's been doing noticeably better. But he only has one game with over 100 quarterback rating. When playing the Saints, like the team where you thought he'd maybe ball out the most so far, he only had a 57% completion rate with 172 yards and an interception. Just really not great stats. But that doesn't necessarily mean the rest of the season won't go well. I mean, they do have an easier schedule than like us, obviously, but I still think the schedule kind of fits where they stand, and their record definitely shows where they stand as well. Still gonna have to hold on and watch the Bears because they are going through a period with a new coach, some new personnel. I think it's definitely worth watching for a while. The Vikings have the worst record in our division with 3-3, coming off of a loss to Philadelphia, ranks 20th offensively and ninth defensively. So they've really struggled to get points, and that has a number of factors. They lost Aaron Jones very early, but JJ McCarthy's been out. They were without Addison for a while. He's back and he had a really good game, but it didn't help them enough. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson has actually been their main guy. Surprise, surprise. Recorded 5 receptions for 79 yards in Minnesota's loss. On Sunday, Jefferson had 529 career receptions and surpassed DeAndre Hopkins at 528 for the second most receptions by a player in his first 6 seasons in the NFL. Only Jarvis Landry with 564 had more. Jefferson has 34 receptions on the season for 528 receiving yards. Honestly, what's killing them right now is being without you know, I mean, Jordan Mason's fine, but being without their big running back and Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is a short-term solution, but after the game we saw in Philly, the pick six, and then immediately going and throwing another pick, just throwing into triple, double coverage, it's clear that they do need their second-year guy, J.J. McCarthy, if they want to have any long-term success. But they need to hope he's leagues better than what Wentz is right now because there's no really proof that McCarthy is like this savior of Minnesota yet. He hasn't really proved it. He hasn't had a lot of time to play. He's been plagued by injuries. Starting to think, oh God, we took this guy 10th overall. We need him to come back if we want to see what Minnesota is really made of. But for now, that's where they stand. And the Lions, the best record at 5-2, coming off of a huge win against Tampa. We ranked 9th offensively and 8th defensively, despite our injuries on defense. I think that's awesome. Our big guy, I mean, you could hand this to anyone really on our offense, but I think the big guy to look at is Jahmyr Gibbs, especially after last game. Rushed 17 times for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns, added 3 receptions for 82 yards and a career high 218 scrimmage yards in the game against Tampa Bay. Gibbs became the 10th player in NFL history and the first player in franchise history to produce a game with 135 rushing yards, 80 receiving yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But this could go to several guys. Like I said, this could go to St. Brown. This could go to, this could honestly go to Goff. He's been great. This could go to somebody on defense. Jack Campbell has been everywhere on defense. This could go to a lot of guys. And this is a really dangerous Lions team, right? Heading into the bye as well, we're going to get a lot of our guys who were dealing with injuries back. I think both of our safeties will be back 100%, hopefully. And we're expecting more guys to just be ready to go. Kelvin Shepherd also has been extremely pleasantly surprising to watch this season. I know we lost both our coordinators, and there was a lot of worries. A lot of bandwagon fans were saying how it's over. No, we knew. Calvin Shepherd has looked great in camp, and he's really taken that into the season, taking a huge role, taking a huge responsibility over this defense, and it's been awesome. So as it stands, just based off of how people have played and taking the record into consideration as too, I think the Lions got to be number one. We got the hardest schedule. We have the best record off the hardest schedule. I think that obviously just puts us at number one. But the Packers are close second. They obviously had our number week one. We were dealing with some issues, some lineman issues, some just new rust, shaking off the rust stuff. And I don't think that'll necessarily happen again. I think if we go and play the Packers, we'll see a whole different Lions team. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. But they come in very close at that second place. Now, the last two were difficult for me because I had to take into consideration the Vikings are playing with their backup quarterback. They're missing a guy. But that doesn't make it. That's not an excuse, right? I would put the Bears ahead of them now just because the Bears have the better record. Have the Bears been playing better football? It's debatable, and it's really just it's your opinion. But I think the Vikings do take this last spot on the list just because Carson Wentz hasn't been fantastic for them. They're missing some of their guys. JJ really was supposed to be their guy this year, and he's still dealing with stuff. I think the Vikings are overall dealing with more issues, which is honestly plaguing them, and that's why I'm going to put them in that last spot. The Bears get a third position spot with kind of an asterisk, but the better record, I will give it to him. Subject to change. We'll see what happens when JJ McCarthy comes back. You guys let me know what you think about that. That's going to take us to our third topic. Now, we've talked about how Brad Holmes has talked about shopping for an edge rusher. All right, well, what are we going to do? We are currently playing good defense in a situation where it looked like we might regress, and we've discussed going for another edge rusher since Davenport went out week 2, and we haven't really heard any good news since then. Who could have told you that? But Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports thinks that the Lions will still add another pass rusher, as do I, and mostly everybody, and has his eye on one guy specifically. That would be Titans edge rusher Arden Key. Arden Key. Who's that? Well, Detroit had strong interest in Key in the pre-draft process, and the Niners had Key in 2021. A third-round pick from the Raiders in 2018. Key had a really forgettable first 3 seasons, if that's why you haven't heard of him. When he flashed as a situational rusher in San Francisco with 6.5 sacks in 2021, then helped fuel the Jags' playoff run the next year with 4.5 more sacks. He signed with the Titans in 2023, finished up with 6 sacks in his first season as a Titan, and followed it up with tying his career high with 6.5 more and 38 pressures in 2024 as a full-time starter. Okay, so he's finally kind of developed. Is he a good guy to put in besides the guy, right? Well, so far this season, he's only logged in at 1.5 sacks before he had a quadricep injury, which has been sidelining him, and he missed a couple of games. He's expected to miss this next week, so they're being cautious, but there's no indication that he should be a long-term injury. So pairing Key with Aiden Hutchinson is a very intriguing idea, to be sure. Hutchinson is going to be commanding most of the attention, and I think that's the idea. That's not going to change, right? Key isn't going to come in and be the guy, right? He's not going to be the guy who comes in and consistently punishes one-on-ones. Key just has to do what he's been doing for most of his career and being the guy that is great at bending the edge with length and explosion, just being a guy that they always have to keep an eye on, right? He doesn't have to be the guy. He just needs to be a pest, be a guy that is consistently doing the same thing. So even so they have to start paying more attention to him. So then Hutch gets freed up for more one-on-ones. And then those plays where they don't pay attention to Key because they're going to double team Hutch or they triple team Hutch, Key gets in and gets a sack, right? That's the idea. That's what we would want him to do. Key is in the final year of his 3-year, $21 million deal that he inked with the Titans. He has a cap hit of just under 9.3 million this season, which wouldn't be crippling for us to take on, but is also not great. The Titans are sliding out of contention at 1-6 right now and kind of falling apart, firing their head coach. So they're really just kind of depending on their veterans. And according to insider Diana Rossini of The Athletic, Tennessee is, quote, open for business and willing to trade any players not named Jeffrey Simmons or Cam Ward. So it kind of seems like he'd be an easier piece to grab. He is 29, relatively productive, and likely to hit free agency in March. The Lions could add him for help this year. I think it would be good. And if he plays well, he could stick around. I don't necessarily think he would or we would want him to. But if not, he can easily move on. My only concern for training with another injured player is we need to know more about this injury, what kind of impact it's going to have on his game and the season overall before we make a move for him and add more cap hit onto our already kind of tightening cap space, right? I think it's definitely we need to know a little more about this. I don't want to have a guy on our team who is holding us back when we need to be signing guys who are healthy and ready to go. The whole reason we're even trading is because Davenport is out. So I don't know. But let me know what you guys think about that one. I think it's definitely maybe, but it's not exactly a perfect situation for us right now. And then finally, should Arnold be starting over, or should Arnold or Robertson be starting? Well, in the last week, Amik Robertson had a standout performance in the Detroit Lions game on Monday. He forced a fumble on Sterling Shepard with his patented peanut punch, he calls it, which was a key to the Lions' defensive effort and provided the team with an excellent field position. And he's been playing really well since returning from a broken arm sustained earlier in 2025 and was described as having a great game at cornerback one by his coaches and peers. So, awesome. What's the bad news? Well, Robertson is currently receiving more playing time than Terrion Arnold at the Detroit Lions outside cornerback position due to Arnold's struggles and Robertson's experience. While Arnold is a developing player who has shown those flashes of potential, Robertson is being favored as a veteran savvy for his being veteran savvy and being effective, especially in situations with multiple wide receivers. This change is strategic adjustment that the coaching staff has said is not necessarily a negative reflection on Arnold's performance, but just to give them splits so he has less on his plate. Playing more outside cornerbacks, shifting from his usual at nickelback to address injuries and Arnold's struggles. It has shown that Arnold has shown potential, but kind of has this one step forward, two step back problem. He was flagged 11 times for 167 yards in the 2024 season. His rookie season was marked by an very, very early high volumes of penalties, which were mostly pass interference and holding, right? Can't do that. In the 2025 season so far, he has two defensive pass interference penalties and two defensive holding penalties. I'm starting to get the flashbacks, and it's like, oh God, why? I get he's young, I get, but it's happening more than it should be, right? It shouldn't be happening at all, but it's been happening more than I'd like it to. And I know it's been talked about already, but Amik Robertson should be getting more starting reps, period. I understand developing our draft pick, not wasting draft stock, right? Developing our first round pick, obviously, right? But here's the thing, right? We are currently in a position to win big. And I don't want our work in progress player to cost us games, cost us big drives when we have a proven veteran starter who's holding Justin Jefferson 3 catches in a game just sitting on our bench. I mean, is that crazy to say? I don't think it is. His play style is already characterized by his aggression, his physicality, his versatility, and then despite being a smaller player, he's a sticky man corner with his instincts as well. I mean, he plays smarter football. And I think that's what makes him so great is he's a smart football player. He plays really great man coverage, which has obviously been our scheme for the last couple of years. And he plays really smart zone too. So if we need to, we throw him in zone. He can bait out those passes from quarterbacks, get those interceptions. And speaking of interceptions, so far this season, he has 17 combined tackles for an interception. That one pick alone already is like, oh gosh, well, he's already looking a little better than Arnold in his first game, like starting. So I don't know. I want to keep Amik Robertson. I think it's the smart move right now just because the position we're in. We need to just go and start winning games, right? But there is always the worry that, you waste a first round pick on Arnold and and it would only be wasted if we didn't actually do anything to develop him. I see that concern. So it really has to be a balanced thing, but I think Amik should start to get the majority of the snaps just because of what we've seen from him so far. And while it is smart to develop our guy, I want to start winning games, and I don't want a season to be ruined because we were giving our second year man more opportunities, right? But that's just my opinion. You let me know what you guys think about that one, and let me know in the comments right now, Amik or Arnold. Let me know. With that being said, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Lions Latest. If you made it to this point in the video, let me know what you guys think about Amik or Arnold and who should be starting. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a single video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.